another video on fondant potatoes. So I was in the supermarket and these baking potatoes were really cheap, and so I kind of thought, well, let's have another go at making fondant potatoes because well, there's two things I want to do in this video. I want to do them and see if we can make them without using butter. So the price of butter's gone through the roof, about £2 a pack, which is far too much. But it was probably too cheap in the first place anyway. It was about £1 a pack. But anyway, so I want to see if we can do it with another type of fat. And I was thinking about butter, and it's the milk solids in the butter, like the whey, that make the butter colour. So when you get things like burn rosette, when you cook with butter, it wants to burn, and that's the milk solids burning. So we can't really do that. There isn't any milk, there isn't any solids like that in a fat like lard or chicken fat or beef dripping. So I kind of thought we'll have to kind of make some something that's gonna caramelise in that fat to kind of get that kind of flavour. Otherwise, we're just kind of making roasted potatoes on top of the stove. And then, so I've kind of collected some fat, and I've collected the sediment sediment that was the bottom of the stock. So that kind of stuff. So that's chicken fat. That's some chicken stock there. That's the skimmings. It was a stock that I made. So it was the skimmings from the chicken stock. That's the fat that rose to the top. And there was some, obviously I skimmed some of the stock out while I was doing that. So that's stock. And then there's some sediment at the bottom. So that sediment there, and that's the same type of thing again. What is that? I think that. No, it's beef fat, is that? So that's chicken fat. This is beef fat. And we've got some sediment down the bottom. So we might be able to use that to for the caramelization process in the same way that the butter milk solids use because butter's not a solid fat. It's got there's a certain percentage of it, I think like 80% fat, and then there's an amount of whey in it as well. That's why you get things like ghee. Ghee is a solid fat, like 100% fat, because we've taken the all the whey out of it. That kind of makes sense. So, and then I was kind of thinking, well, if you want to make fondant potatoes, I use a cutter that I had made, and it's just a pastry ring with a sharpened edge. And I kind of thought, well, if you don't want to be bothered doing that, let's see if we can not have to use one of those. So we're going to make them with a fat, like a beef dripping or a chicken fat, and we're going to not have to use one of those as well. So I need to peel because I need to peel some potatoes anyway. So all the trimmings are going to go and get used for something else. Otherwise, in restaurants, what they do is you just kind of don't bother peeling them. They just kind of cut straight through them. But I don't like food waste, so I'm going to peel them first. So I'll peel them, and then we'll get to the stage of what we're going to do, and I'll have a think. But that's me describing, and I'll do some peeling, and then we're back when we've got some potatoes to faff around with. Right, they're peeled. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. So I think we want the flattish ones, I think. Not those. It's not going to produce a very good one. Okay, so let's just square them off so they're a little bit easier to work with. That there, that'll be a good size. We want those bits for something else. I'm not going to cook them today. We're just doing the prep. I'm going to put them in the in some water in the fridge overnight. But I need the potatoes. I need the trimmings from the potatoes. But I don't want to make the potato fondants today because I've got enough to do. No, I haven't actually. I just can't be bothered. Sometimes you just can't be bothered doing things. But I need to do these potatoes. I need to pit potato trimmings today. People just never won't do that one. Not fun. I would like them a little bit taller, but they were cheap in the supermarket, so can't really complain about the potatoes that we've got. That'll be okay. That'll be for that one. And we might just. I don't think we're going to get a good one out of that one. But let's see. Take that off there. We can always trim them up We might get one. So this is a tricky bit. So this is a tricky bit when using a cutter like that. Okay, so it's like a twist, and then we need to push down. And we've got that trim in there, then that comes out there. Oh, that's okay. It's a little bit uneven, but that'll be fine. The only problem when using bigger potatoes is it's more difficult to cut them out. Like there's more resistance. So that's the better thing of using small potatoes, but they don't just come out just as well as using a big potato. So, and also when you're pressing down, what you do is you create a vacuum. So, no, not a vacuum, but you create a seal. So the air pressure builds up inside, which makes them more difficult to push through. So can be a bit uneven. There we go. It's going to look a bit. Well, we'll neaten that one up. That'll be fine. But I suppose I'm doing this more times than I actually should. But do you know? I think you see in videos of people showing you how to do things, and they rattle through things so quickly that you can't actually see what someone's doing. So I need to go straight down, and then it cuts through it, and then we don't get any jagged edges. So these are perfect for Christmas. And I was just thinking, so where would you get the that what we call it, those bits of sediment? So if you'd made like a roast joint, a beef or lamb or pork or chicken, like the crusty bits in the bottom of the pan that have already started to caramelise, that's what you'd use. But we'll get to that bit when we actually make the fondant potatoes. So like the good bits at the bottom of the pan, which you'd normally make the gravy out of. So you sacrifice your gravy to get that. So those are those. Relatively okay. So what we need to do is we need to take the knife and we need to take off the sharp edge. Like that. So it doesn't have to be exact, but just by taking off that sharp edge, it's going to stop it from sticking in the pan. Well, we do want it to stick, because that's what's going to create caramelisation. But we don't want we want to be able to get it out of the pan, so we just need to take these sharp edges off. So what tends to happen is they tend to cook to nothing, stick a little bit too easy to the bottom of the pan. And by taking them off, see, that's not so neat, that one, but that's okay on that side. By taking them off, what happens is we get this nice circle of caramelisation. I've done a video. I've done these a couple of times, different kind of methods. I've seen other people try to do them online on YouTube, and I just think they don't do a particularly very good job, if I'm honest. The best way to cook them, I think, was invented by Michael P. White. So anyone who doesn't do them like Michael P. White, these ones are done like Michael P. White. Michael P. White does them. Anyone who doesn't do them like that, I don't think they're really kind of doing them kind of quite properly. Very 1980s, early 90s type of thing. But they are delicious, if not a little sort of self-indulgent. So that's a bit rough on that side, but that's the side we'll use as a presentation. Have we done them all? No. So that one's a little bit. That's the only downside of using smaller potatoes. But they were cheap, so it seemed like a good opportunity. So it cost me 28p, whereas it would have cost me £1 and something to do those potatoes. So those are the ones done with the pastry cutter. Alright, and then I was kind of thinking, if you didn't want to buy a pastry cutter and sharpen up the edge yourself, I thought there's got to be a way to do it in a pan. And I've seen them where people round them off with a knife, and they just look a bit haphazard and don't look particularly very good. And I kind of think, well, if you're going to do that, we might as well just whip off the bottom of the potato, whip off the top of the potato, and then we're left with that drum. And then we can go around the edge like that, and that's the same kind of idea. So we'll just go down there like that, and then I think that will work just as well, and you don't have to faff around carving them down. So That's a little bit too. Cut through that one. So this one's going to be a better one. So we'll go through the top there. I'll go through the top there. So what the other people do, I've seen on the other channels, is they shave it down like that. So they cut off that bit there and cut off that bit there, and get like a barrel shave that way. But I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to. I just think you need to go around the edge like that, take the edge off, and then that's it. So that, as long as that sits up there, it'll look kind of quite impressive. That's my idea anyway. So I wanted to see if it worked. It probably will do. It probably will do. They won't look as good as those, but I think they'll look good all the same. Let's just make a flat edge and I'll see if we can get one out of that. It's a bit too small. I'm going to end up giving them away anyway. I'm not going to eat them all. I might give them away on Wednesday. Might take them to work on Wednesday and give them away for free. I want to be pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's just. The video's already far too long, but it's an instructional video. You know, I think, yeah. I find most instructional videos not that good. It takes me a little bit of a while to kind of comprehend what someone's doing. I don't get it in one go. I have to work it out. So if you can see me doing this a few times, you get the idea of what we're actually doing. So it's a little bit too small. I prefer them bigger. Ideally, I prefer them that size. That's good size. But there we go. So I'll put those in some water, and we'll probably end up cooking those tomorrow or the day after when I've got a little bit more time. I have got time. I'm lying, aren't I? It's just I've got other things I want to do. But they'll get used in what I'm going to do today, and they'll get cooked a little bit later on. Right, let's have a go at cooking these. So hopefully they'll all fit in the pan. So pick the best side. So that's the back side. We want to just squish the fat down the pan. It's a mixture of a few different fats. There's some lard in here, there's some beef dripping, there's a bit of chicken. It's all fat that's a bit dirty actually, so it's got bits in it. So that's the bottom of the container of fat that I've got. I'm going to use those bits. I think we need a bit more. Let's see what we've got. Small container of something. That's lard. I don't want to use that lard. Let's use. I think I got some chicken. Yeah, I got some chicken. So let's use a bit of chicken fat as well. So this is just pure chicken fat. Is this that I rendered out from? No, it was from a stock. It was from a stock. So we just need some fat. So this is not necessarily a recipe, more of a method. So a good amount of fat on the bottom. We have to season this kind of quite well as well. So that one there. We certainly want to use these bigger ones. So that's a good size. That's a good end. So we'll put that one in. It's going to take a little bit longer to cook than the others, but we're fine. If we don't use them all, we don't use them all. See, that was one of the odd uneven ones. So we'll put 2 of those in for definite, because we want to definitely want to see if those work properly. So these are the proper barrel ones, the fancy ones that you would get in fancy restaurants in the 1980s and 90s. I don't think people cook them anymore. Oh no, we can only do 7, 5, 6, we can only do 7. I don't think that would have fitted in anyway. Not to worry, it wasn't the best one anyway. So, right, so we certainly need these bits of mucky fat, the mucky bits at the bottom of the fat, because that's what's going to caramelise and give us the colour. And then we need a little bit of water in there as well. So that in there. The fat's not particularly pure anyway, so there's going to be some little bits. I was thinking about this, and my only kind of concern is that they might stick a little bit, because as the gelatin in the stock and the fat reduces down, it's going to become a little bit sticky. So these might stick, which is my my only really concern. So, that out of the way. Now, apologies for people who've got a problem with salt. I'm going to put quite a bit of salt in, so, but we're seasoning quite a lot of potatoes. I mean, essentially 7 large potatoes we're seasoning. So to season them properly, we need to use quite a bit of salt. And not all the salt's going to go into the potatoes. So, but if you're concerned about your salt intake, use less salt. And I just need a little bit of water. I need some paper for the top as well. So a little bit of water. What's that going to do is that's going to emulsify with the fat and stop the fat from like frying the potatoes. We want them to slowly braise first, so we'll braise them. No, it's not braising on top of the stove, or is it? Braising steaks in the oven, stewing is on the top. I don't know, but we want to emulsify them anyway. Slowly, and then as that liquid water evaporates off, then we'll start to get some colour on the potatoes. So the kind of potatoes we want to judge it so the potatoes are the water has evaporated off just at the, and they start to colour on the bottom of the potatoes at the right time that they are sufficiently cooked on the bottom, and then we're going to flip them over. So it's I can't give you temperatures, I can't give you times. It's a touch and a feel and an intuition type of thing. So from that point of view, quite a difficult thing to do. But anyway, up to temperature, slowly braise. We need a little bit of, we've got a little bit of baking parchment. No, we can use something else. So we just need a little bit of paper from the top. Ordinarily, if I was using butter, I'd use the butter paper from the top of it. But we just need what is called in the trade as a cartouche, which is just a little bit of baking parchment or greaseproof paper on top of the pan, just to stop the top of the potatoes from drying out too much and too much liquid evaporating off. So make it into a triangle-ish, and then think to yourself, well, we just need to, that's about the centre, so we just need to rip off about there. Won't be. There we go, that'll do-ish. No, it won't. There is a little bit of a perfectionist in me. Not much of a perfectionist, but that wasn't good enough. I'm not that much of a perfectionist. I think I'm a firm believer in putting some work in, but not too much, but it gets ridiculous. I think was it the 80-20 rule, something on the lines of 80% of the outcome is done with 20% of the work. I think I had a conversation with my sister about it. I've forgotten which way it is. Yeah, so there's like a diminishing point of returns. So you can put more work into it, but the results aren't going to be that much better. So that's generally how I feel about a lot of things. You know, I'm much more interested in taste than appearance. Something doesn't have to look particularly very good. I want it to taste amazing. I'd rather put my effort into the amazing flavour. So there we go. So that's fine. Cooking enough. So you can see that the fat is emulsifying with the liquid there. But it's quite a heavy bottom pan, this is. I haven't used it for years. I bought it especially to cook fondant potatoes in. 24 years ago? 23, 24 years ago, something like that. Anyway, there we go, so that's fine. So we'll turn that down. Thing to remember about thick bottom pans is that they hold the heat a lot more. So even though you're going to think that you've turned it down enough, you might not have to, so we need to keep an eye on things. Once they're up to correct temperature, they will cook along all day long at the same and give a consistent temperature throughout the day. We'll have a solid bottom pan, but to get them to that right temperature is just a little bit difficult. So it's like turn it up a little bit, turn it down a little bit, but once we're there. So that looks like it's fine, and we'll just keep an eye on them. So they'll probably take a couple of hours just on a steady heat, but there we go. We'll see how they turn out. Right, so the water has evaporated off. I don't know if we can actually see this. The water's evaporated off, and we're now just kind of left with the bits of caramelised bits at the bottom, which has come from the solids that we put in. So it's starting to fry because the fat is no longer emulsified. It's gone to looks more like a clear fat. So that's at a good stage. However, the potatoes are feeling not as soft as I would like them. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. And what that will do is it will stop any colouring from going on, any frying, and it will just slow down the cooking process so the potatoes cook more and don't brown. So by adding the water, it'll emulsify again, and then when that water is evaporated off, it'll start that frying process again, which is kind of what, and then hopefully by the time we're back to the frying process again, the potatoes will be soft enough that we can carry on the process of cooking them in the almost frying in the fat, and then to get some colour, and then we'll let it cool down. So we just needed to need to top up the water now and again. So that should be fine. So we'll give that another 15 minutes, and then we'll see how those turn out. It's going to be a long video, this, but I don't care. So it's been longer than 15 minutes. It's been more like half an hour. So I think these are caramelised enough on the bottom. I can see that they're colouring up the sides. So, and that's the idea of colouring the bottoms, which are going to be essentially the tops. We need to get the best kind of colour on the side that we cook first, which is going to be the presentation side. So we're not going to serve that side up, we're going to serve the other side up. So I think those are cooked enough. Can we see the kind of a little bit, we can see a little bit of caramelisation, but we'll get a better idea when we turn them over. So that pan's going to retain the heat for quite a while. Maybe not as cooked as much as I would have liked on this first side, but that's okay. We can carry on cooking, finish off the cooking process on the other side. So what we do is we'll let those go cold, and then we'll flip them over and repeat the process, and then we'll be able to have a look at them on the other side. But they need to be cool before we flip them over. So what happens certainly with potatoes is when a potato is hot, sorry, I'm just wiping my hands and wiping down the counter, that seems dirty as well. So when a potato is warm, it's a lot softer than it is when it's cool. I suppose it's probably the carbohydrates and the proteins in it which kind of set it back so it's more solid. So like if you've seen my cooking chips video, you probably haven't. When you first take the potatoes out of the first cooking of the potatoes in the chip process, when you pull them out of the the simmering salted water, they're very soft. We let them go cold in the air, steam evaporates off them, and they firm up as they get cold, and then they are more able to be cooked in the fat for the second cooking of the potatoes. If we were to take those hot potatoes out of the boiling water, drain them, get rid of the excess moisture, and then put those hot, soft potatoes into the hot fat, they would explode and kind of like fall to bits because the potatoes need time to firm up. So I'm kind of explaining this probably more than I should do. So they're a little bit soft. We'll let them cool. They'll firm up, which is a quicker way of saying that, and then we'll flip them over gently, and then we'll carry on cooking the what kind of process. I suppose I remember now that so the way I make videos is I try and think about the questions I would ask if I was if someone was teaching me how to do this, I would want to know certain kind of questions. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? What happens if we don't do that? Why do we need to let the potatoes cool down? What's that kind of process? You know, so I'd always ask those questions. So when I'm passing on knowledge, I like to give that information. Most people won't be kind of interested. Most people just kind of want to know, this is what you do, this is the next process, this is the next process, this is the next process, and this is what happens in the end. But I don't want to know that. I want to know why, and why we do things. Generally in life, because everything's kind of like, when you know something and why it works, you can then turn that knowledge onto something else, because lots of things are very similar. So once you know the potatoes, when they're soft, or when they are cooked, they are soft, and probably like to break up if you move them around too much, then that serves for all kind of purpose, all potatoes, or when you're doing anything else. So you've acquired that knowledge, and then you can use it somewhere else, which is generally what I kind of like to know. But anyway, you might not want to know that. But anyway, there we go. So they'll cool down. We'll let them go almost cold, and then we'll flip them over. They've cooled. Let's have a look. So they're always difficult to get out. First one's always the worst. And how's it going to look? Oh, it looks alright, doesn't it? A little bit over, but not bad. So, second one's easier, as always, because we can get more leverage underneath. It's not bad. It's got the nice ring around the outside. So we'll get I don't think I'll be bothered about colouring the other end of them, because this is the side that's going to be shown up. So let's have a look at this one, so you don't have to faff around with a pastry cutter. You can just, oh, look at that. That was quite impressive, doesn't it? So that one's done well. So these two were the ones that I didn't use the pastry ring with. That's just slightly gone brown. It's not been cooked. They are cooked on that side. So flip them over, a little bit of water, and repeat the cooking process. Right, let's have a look at these. I may have caramelized them a little bit too much. Oh, we can use that to put them on. So, but let's have a look. I took my eye off the prize yesterday, so they're a little bit overcooked on the bottom. A little bit overcooked. But they're coming out kind of quite easy. I was thinking today, while I was doing something else, I was kind of thinking that, do we really need to put the stuff that's going to caramelize in the bottom of the fat? Couldn't we just do like the pure fat with a little bit of water? And I kind of think probably, but that kind of feels more like it'd be like a roast potato. But anyway, and would that kind of caramelize? Maybe that's another video. But let's see how they taste first. Although they're cold, but I'm not really bothered about that. Go like that in the sense they're nice and soft. We'll taste the bottom, and then we'll know if they've taken them a little bit too far. No, It's not burnt. It's just overly caramelised. You know, that's taken on a lovely flavour of the fat. So, they're really nice. So, we can cook fondant potatoes in other types of fat. It doesn't have to be butter. That's so good. Yeah, so the price of butter's gone through the roof, but we can cook fondant potatoes in other types of fat. So, I don't know if someone eats beef dripping or lard or chicken fat or lamb fat, they're going to eat butter, aren't they? I can't imagine that people don't eat butter, but they do eat animal fats. But anyway, so it works. We've just got to be a little bit careful. I'll do them again at some point. I'll do a faster video where I just use pure fat and no kind of sediment in there. But they work really well. I am happy. A little bit too caramelised. So do that. But yeah, you want to wow people on Christmas Day. You know, something different than roast potatoes. Those are the potatoes for you. A success.